All right, welcome back, everybody, to another wonderful and great edition of this professional interview series for Parks and Recreation. With us, we have Mr. Josh Pulver. Uh, Josh, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. When I started thinking about different folks to interview, and somebody said, you should have somebody that does like ministry recreation stuff. Not only did I think of you, but I immediately told a story about you, to be honest. And I'll say this before we start getting in is like, you may be one of the most passionate people I've ever met in my life, like in total, right? I remember no matter what classes we had together or what we were doing you had a lot of energy and I always appreciated that. And, that's the story I told. I was like, not only will I try to get this guy, but he is probably the most energetic person I've ever met in my life. Um, you know, you just bring a lot of energy, a lot of passion, which like I said, I appreciate.
I do. Every day, every
Yeah,
day, I choose joy.
yeah. And I think it's a testament to what you're doing now, or your career path too. So, um, if we step in a time machine and we go backwards, and that's kind of where I want to start is, and I know you have an interesting background too. Is tell us a little bit about like where and how you grew up, and a little bit about how that kind of pushed you into your college days in your college major.
Okay, that's pretty great. I grew up in Oklahoma, spent all of my life in Oklahoma until 2019. 37 years in Oklahoma and just had a great time. My father is a United Methodist pastor, so we moved around Oklahoma a little bit. We moved to 5 different communities growing up, but had a very diverse and very eclectic, I guess, background in that grew up in some farming communities, a lake community. I grew up just a little, lived for 10 years just outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I had a variety of experiences throughout that time. And uh, school wasn't always the best. I didn't have a ton of friends, but still, did the best I could. And it was when I was able to go to church camp. Starting my freshman year, I went to a leadership camp at Cross Point Camp down on Lake Texoma, or I guess it's up on Lake Texoma from here. I'm in Texas now, but uh, we I went there and it was just life changing for me. I was uh, I was a little weird, a little goofy, like as you said, passionate, high energy, and that was I met people there that matched it, and we had a great time, and that was truly a life changing experience for me for that to be accepted and embraced. So that was a great time, and I knew kind of starting then that camping would be in my life for a long time. And when it came time to choose a school, I actually chose Oklahoma State University because they had a landscape contracting program. At the time, they were one of 3 schools in the country that had landscape contracting, and I was really excited to do that. So I went to Stillwater, was in the marching band for 3 years, and that was fun. Also got to be the mascot there at Oklahoma State University, Pistol Pete, this guy, for 2 years. So that was a lot of fun. But what really happened to me during that time was a true discovery in what I was going to do with my life. And I, I mentioned landscape contracting that lasted one class period, and I wasn't going to handle that load. And then I switched to business management. And if anybody is listening that went through one of the like business calculus or any of those classes, it was very evident that that was not where I needed to be. So then I switched over to broadcast journalism because I thought being a DJ would be fun because I still love to DJ. In fact, as a camp director, that's been one of my favorite things to do is to DJ the dances because you just have a lot of fun and like again, Mike, like you said, high energy, lots of fun. And one of the things that about me is that I love to control the environment. I don't need to be the center of attention, but I love to help control the environment, whether it's being a DJ or being the mascot. I also have done work as a public address announcer for sporting events, and that's completely anonymous. But with your tone and with everything going on, you get to help, encourage and get people excited. So that's kind of what has driven me a lot in my life is being able to help other people have a good time and have fun. So eventually, I found my way. A friend of mine said, "Josh, have you thought about leisure studies?" I said, "What is that?" and uh, and I said, "I no, I haven't thought about that." And that was actually the end of my sophomore year at Oklahoma State, and I worked that summer at one of the Methodist camps in Oklahoma as on their maintenance staff, and did the worst jobs you can imagine. Mike, it was it was one day to make sure that the pump to kick the pumps back on and things like that. Just had the worst jobs you can imagine, and I loved every second of it. And I truly felt that that's where God was calling me to go. So went back to school, changed my degree to leisure studies, and everything got better from that point on. It was a wonderful experience to be able to be in that degree program. Got to meet awesome people like you, and a story on you is you definitely you raised the bar for all of us in those classes, and I appreciated it. I looked up to you a lot, especially academically, but I have a tremendous respect for you and all the people that we were in class with. What a wonderful group of people to spend the last couple of years of my education with there at Oklahoma State. So coming to graduation at Oklahoma State, I didn't have a job lined up. I was working for event staff. I was the assistant manager for event staff, and that's all I had lined up at that moment because nothing had come about. And the week before graduation, I happened to be at the same restaurant with some of the OSU alumni staff, and one of the vice president came up to me and said, "Josh, do you have a job?" I said, I do. Why? And he said, "Well, I wanted to talk to you about a position at the Alumni Center." And I said, "I'm listening." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Well, come by the office." So I went in and we talked, and um, I, applied for the job and got it. And 2 weeks later, started working for the Alumni Association right after graduation. So that was really wonderful. And uh, we can get more into that later if you want to, or if you want me to keep going, I can do that too.
Sorry, I was on mute, so I make sure I don't make any odd noises while you're talking. Um, so
That's
absolutely. So
appreciated.
I guess before we move into that job with the alumni is, um, you know, during your time with with looking at different majors, right? And you said, hey, one of your buddies said, have you looked at leisure studies, right? And you had already kind of found your home as far as like you found your joy working in the camp and all that. As you thought about leisure studies and you went through that program, um, and you were pretty active on campus as well with the Pistol Pete gig. What do you? One thing that I always wondered is, did you ever feel like you were for like the poster child or the ambassador for the program as you went out? Right? Like you're Pistol Pete, you're getting in front of a lot of people, and then people are like, oh, whoever's behind this Pistol Pete mess must be pretty, pretty active, pretty cool. What, a lot of good things, right? Did you ever feel like you were the ambassador or the spokesperson in some way?
For leisure studies,
Yeah.
I I never looked at it that way.
Okay.
I've never really truly looked at myself as a spokesperson or as a major ambassador for something, except for when it was my job to be, of course, as for OSU or the different camps I've been at. But I guess I could have been. I I'm not sure that I was a great poster child for it at the time, except that I was fairly well known around campus, and I'm not sure if that brought any more attention to it. Of course, I think in all everything that I do, no matter what it is, I want to leave a positive note for people so that they at least know that they don't have a negative look on it because of my involvement. So I'd like to think that I had a positive, I created a positive outlook for some people on that, but I'm really not sure.
I just remember, like, other folk, talked about our group there on campus, right? Is we had a lot, pretty much the same cohort with the several different classes together. And I just remember,
Mhm.
and me too, we all think it was so cool that you were Pistol Pete, right? And, we looked up to you in a lot of ways too. Um, so you get toward the end of your time in your education, and you get this opportunity to stay there at Oklahoma State. Um, when you went in and you talked to this gentleman about the position, um, you know, what were you thinking as far as that career opportunity? And so what were you thinking as that happened, and why'd you take it, and how did it progress you as a person?
Yeah, I think for me, I've tried to. This is where I'm going to really jump into my faith and how I've allowed God to try to guide my life as I've gone along. But I've always put a very large importance in God's plan for me in my life. And so for me, that comes first. And if God's got that plan for me, I know it may not always be smooth. And trust me, I've got some stories where it's not been a smooth journey. But at the same time, I've felt a peace about it. And so when I switched my degree over to leisure studies, I felt peace for the first time in college. I felt peace, and the people I met through that degree program was just very evident from day one that it was meant to be. And so it's kind of the same thing. I was looking at different positions, different career opportunities, and nothing really fit me. I wasn't going the same route as a lot of people that we had in our degree program. A lot of people were going into Parks and Rec or other areas like that. I didn't have a strong desire at that time to get it to go directly into the field, but at that opportunity, I'm such a people person. I'm very extroverted, and if you're doing my Myers Briggs, I'm the more introverted of the extroverts, to be honest with you. But at the same time, like this past year with COVID-19, of course, especially we've all experienced that withdrawal from being around people. But I noticed it especially hard too. So, anyways, as I looked at the career there with the Alumni Association, I digressed a little bit there. I apologize, but as I looked at what that career would offer me, it was a chance for me to be around people, to represent the university that I loved and had done so much for me. I wanted to give back just a little bit to the university as well. But then it gave me a chance to travel and and impact lives in a different way at that time. And I think for me, that was what was truly important. I did my internship with the athletic department at Oklahoma State, so I didn't branch out too far, with those things. And people doing cruise ships and other great internships where they travel off, and I stayed right there in Stillwater and did an unpaid internship right there at the university. But also what I learned during that internship has been great for me as a facility manager. Also, learn logistics, safety concerns, different things like that. That truly made an impact for me and helped me along the way. Same thing with my job at the Alumni Association. That completely changed my outlook and what I've been able to accomplish, I think, later on in my career.
And not everybody went on the exotic ones. I did my internship at Muskogee Parks and Rec, so which I enjoyed, kind of like
That's
you
right.
did, but it's not certainly not exotic. You know,
Right.
so you're at the alumni center for a while. And at some point, I know you transitioned back into the camp environment, right? So, uh, so talk us through a little bit about when you knew the timing was right to make that transition, and not just the timing of when, but the right place and all that. So, could you talk us a little bit through that?
Yeah, definitely can. As we've clearly expressed, I have a love for Oklahoma State University. So that time at the Alumni Association was a great opportunity. But there was a definite time where it became very clear to me that it was not my long-term career, and there was those were struggles, and I don't want to dive into those, but there were struggles that really made me question being there at the time. And had people talking to me that if I wanted to go further in that career, then I would need to do this and this, and really change a lot of who I am and how I operate. And I didn't feel that that's what I needed to be doing at the time. So the last several years I was at the Alumni Association, I was open to opportunities, and I did want to get back into camping. Eventually, I wanted to take over one of the camps in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has 3 United Methodist Church camps that I grew up spending time at, and as I really felt God calling me to be there at some point, but was open to other opportunities just to get my feet in the door and learn what I needed to learn so that I could start working up that ladder. So I applied for a few program director positions at camps, including the camp I'm at right now, Lakeview. And I applied for the program director position here in 2009, and I applied for one at Cedar Canyon Camp in the Texas Panhandle. I wanted to stay fairly close to Oklahoma because I'm very close to my family, so I didn't want to go out too far, but wanted to venture out a little bit to get some experience, and then eventually make my way back to Oklahoma. And neither one of those doors opened for me. It's each step of my journey. I've prayed. If that's not your will for me, Lord, then please shut this door. And unfortunately, those doors have been shut for me along the way too, if it needed to be. So 2009, I was struggling, didn't know what my calling was. I even looked into possibly going to seminary to become a minister, a full-time clergy person. And God made it clear to me, though, at that time that was not where He had me long term. And I was thankful for that door to shut again. And then the spring of 2011, I was encouraged to apply for the director position at Camp Egan in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And so I put my name in. And when it came time for the interview, it just had a piece about it. It felt right, to the point where I'd even told my supervisor at the Alumni Association, who was just a tremendous boss and supervisor. And he was amazing to work with. But I let him know ahead of the interview. I said, hey, I need you to know I'm interviewing for this position. And it's not that I'm just trying to get away from the Alumni Association, but I really feel God calling me into this position. And he was very supportive the entire way. And I gave over a month, notice when I left. But to be able to get into that position was just truly a blessing for me. And then kind of a similar situation, coming here to Lakeview just a year and a half ago. It became clear to me that it was time for me to move on to a different place. And as I pushed send on the email to turn in my resume and cover letters for this position, I did the same thing. I said, Lord, if it's your will for me to be in this position, then let it be so. But if it's not, please close this door for me as quick as possible. So I'm happy to say I've been here a year and a half and loving it.
And I think that's, and different people may view it a little differently, right? But, the fact
Yeah.
that there's opportunities presented to us at the right time. And sometimes it takes a little leap of faith, right? And sometimes it also takes faith or belief that the opportunities are not presented for the right reason as well.
Yeah.
Well before I applied for this position, I applied for another job, and man, I wanted it so bad, man. I wanted it so bad, and it never happened. And now that I'm here, I felt like it was the right thing, right? So I think that's some
Yeah.
really good that's really good advice for somebody that as they're kind of progressing through their professional life and personal life, is that what, sometimes there's reasons, and what, maybe not saying you weren't, but sometimes in my case I just wasn't ready, and
Right.
and that's just an honest reflection about that as well. So
Yeah.
you've been there for a little over a year.
Yes, I have.
And so uh, tell us what you do. So give us a little bit about what Mr. Pulver goes through on a day to day or overall. What do you do there at your new in Palestine, Texas?
Well, my position here at Lakeview is a lot different than what I was doing at Egan. Although it's kind of the same position, it's a very different scale. And so, at Egan, most days I wore my steel toe boots and ripped up jeans, and was helping with maintenance work and different things around the camp. And here it's a very different role. I'm much more administrative, as the CEO of the organization as a whole. So it's very different. I report directly to a board of directors now, and so I work a lot with the board, work on fundraising and other opportunities, work to support the staff, our department heads, make sure that hopefully they have the resources that they need. Of course, this year's been a bit of a challenge with that, but work with them to support them and help them, do the best and support their staff the best way that they can. So overall, working to, eventually we'll continue working on setting the vision moving forward. I get to work on what our strategic plan is moving forward, and get to dream a little bit to put some of those things in place, and but then also start doing the heavy lifting and the legwork to make some of those things happen. Working with possible donors and other people to really get Lakeview in a place where we can continue to move forward. But at the same time, you still have to wear those other hats. There's days where I still go out and hop on the tractor to help get things done, or I'll mow. If things need to be done, I'll help in the kitchen with serving meals, from time to time, and do those different things, because that's who I am. I have a servant's heart, and I enjoy working with people, and for me, especially when I'm in the cafeteria, that's an obviously the cafeteria. They say hi to every single person that's here that day. And so, make sure I got my hair covering on, my gloves and mask, and being there serving food. You get to joke around with people and act like you're not going to give them food, different things like that. So it's a so it's just to me, it's hard to imagine a more rewarding field, because you truly get to see, in the thick of it, you get to see the fruits of all your hard work a lot of times. Because whether or not you see the long lasting impact that you get to have on people that come to visit, you at least get to see them in that moment, and you get to see them with our program staff doing the challenge course, or doing different activities. You get to see them experiencing the beauty of the nature around us out here, and doing different things like that. So that's, the short version, unless you want me to pull out the 5-page job description.
Well, so overall, and this is the reason I wanted to make sure I got you as we explored this is, recreation in on the ministry side, and like you, I went to Falls Creek, which you probably know as far as a camp, as a kiddo and whatnot. You know, there's so much recreation that happens in the ministry sector, and I think that sometimes many of us go to camp, or that we have those experiences, and it, I don't know if it gets lost, but we just don't. A lot of students, and I certainly was that way too, just didn't, like, while we enjoyed our time at Falls Creek or whatever camp it may have been, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
register to us in a lot of times that somebody's out there facilitating it, running it, raising money so that you can have those experiences, right? As a kiddo or whatnot. So I think it's real important. What do for maybe not just for you, but overall, what do you think are some of the things that, if somebody's thinking about a career in ministry recreation, or recreation in the ministry scale, in that sector, so to speak, what are some of the things that you think that you would advise students, or what are some tidbits of advice for them as they consider that?
Be open, first and foremost. Be open to different opportunities that will present themselves. When you look at my career path, to go from working at the Alumni Association then into camping ministry, it's two very different fields. However, what did I do at the Alumni Association? I planned events, I communicated, I raised money, I helped market those events, and I helped try to create an environment that was welcoming for everybody at the same time. So when you look at it that way, the things I learned while at the Alumni Association fed right into everything that I've been doing in my ministry at camps too, and have been truly helpful, because it's helped me with creative fundraising ideas. I was able to start a golf tournament in my previous camp to help raise money as part of our annual giving funds, and that, because I was helping with 5 golf tournaments every year at OSU. So so being open to not necessarily there being a straight road for you in your career path, and even into ministry especially. God can use different experiences, and will guide you down a different, just a slight different curve and variation in what you think you need to be doing. And as long as you're open to that guidance, then you'll end up right where he's got you planned for, and it'll be a great experience the whole way. Because while I've had challenges each step of the journey, I wouldn't trade them for anything because they've helped me get to where I am today. The day I moved all of my belongings to my previous camp in Oklahoma was the day of the largest flood in the history of that area of Oklahoma, and the camp suffered $250,000 in damage 1 month before summer camp started. So I was 28 years old, had no experience dealing with flood, restoration and things like that. But also, none of the summer staff had been hired. The camp was just not ready, and so I was actually living in one of the cabins at the time. So getting through that month period, having to deal with flood restoration and everything else that piled on top of it, uh, there's no doubt that God was very present for me through that time. But it also helped me have a foundation for handling tough situations. The next year, I had to send an entire camp home because of a bed bug infestation at that camp. And you have to send a full camp home on Tuesday. And I mean, literally, I didn't eat for 48 hours, Mike. And if you remember anything about me, I like to eat.
Yeah,
So,
me
that's
too.
definitely something major. and, and so, but there's many examples that have led up to that, to even then go into what happened this past year with COVID-19. For the first time in 73 years, Lakeview didn't have summer camp. And, that was a major thing. We'll have over 2,500 campers come through in just 4 weeks, come through for that session of camps. And, to not be able to do that was killer. It was my first summer since 1993 to not go to camp, to not have camp of some sort. So, there's challenges that'll come through, but at the same time, being open, uh, coming back full circle, being open to that and all those little variations that will come into play has made a huge difference for me. Not having my set plan that I wanted to follow, no matter how difficult or how troublesome it would be, has been very, very good for me. To be able to just kind of be open to it and flexible to see what happens.
So the one question I had before I let you go, and most of these I've kind of flipped these, but it worked out where it flowed pretty well here. But because usually I ask this question and then I ask for advice, but we had the advice that fit right in. But so my final question here is, if you weren't doing, the working in the camp world, and money wasn't an object, and you could choose any career, right? Um, what do you think your dream career would be, or your dream job would be, if it wasn't for if Josh wasn't working in the camp world?
Probably be a rancher.
I could see that.
I, you know, I I've always enjoyed. I've never lived on a ranch. I've never technically worked full time on a ranch, but I've had a lot of rancher friends that I've worked with and helped out with from time to time. And I'm an outdoors guy. I love to be outside. I love to work, and that's one thing that, I really do. I love to go out and get dirty. And I've been excited for the upcoming weekend because I get to mow and get to take care of stuff around the house and do those types of things. So I think, if not a rancher, um, somewhere in the kind of starting up my own like DJ service, going back to something like that, I think would be a lot of fun also, to travel around. And they've got the silent disco now. I don't know if you've seen or heard about that, but
Oh,
we just purchased it for our summer camp. So we have 200 sets of headphones, and on each headphone you can select channels 1, 2, or 3, and then you have 3 different channels of music being played. So you'll have all these people out there dancing to different music. So on this corner you'll have somebody doing YMCA, and on this corner you'll have somebody doing a line dance, and then maybe you have somebody two-stepping in the middle. But so people
wow.
can choose the channel they're listening to, and a light on their headphone shows which, whatever color that is whatever channel they're listening to.
Wow.
So
I've not heard of that.
there's different fun things out there like that. And like I said earlier, my goal in life has been to try to help people have a great time and enjoy life as much as possible. And so I think staying along those lines, I think is where I would truly feel my calling. So as much as I like being a rancher, I probably have to stick on the other side of it. I could probably do both.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say there's with ranching, it's a lot of work, but there's downtime. So, no, what's funny is that, you said rancher. I was like, you know what? I could really see that. And then, the DJ thing too. So, uh, and as I've asked that question over and over again, I have to think about what and I think ranching would be a lot of fun. It's not something I think of when people say, what's your dream job? But when you said it, I was like, you know what? I'm with you. I could see that, the I'm with like you. I like being outside. I'm a worker bee. I like doing things, and um, I've never lived on a ranch or anything like that either. So I
Yeah,
think it'd be fun. So I'm with you.
sounds good. Hey, we could do it at J&M Ranch, just right
Yeah.
there, or MJ Ranch. There you go.
Got to capitalize on that MJ marketing.
Right, exactly.
Well, Josh, thank you so much. Sincerely
Oh,
appreciate you taking your time today. It was good to catch up, number one, but number two, I really appreciate sharing some of your experiences and hopefully, students or young professionals that are looking into, what they want to do, exploring what can be, right? And I think that your career path is something that a lot of them would probably consider, and I hope they do.
thank you. Yeah, it's truly been a blessing to me, and I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to be able to help spread the word a little bit because it's not an area that, like you said earlier, you go to camp, but you don't realize what all it takes to make it
Right.
work and make it happen. And I'm always, if anybody ever has any questions, I'm available. Um, I don't know if you want me to put our website out there for my contact information or what, but feel free to share my contact information, and website if you want to, so people can get in touch with me if they have any questions.
Sure. I'll put that in like the notes or whatnot. I'll connect everybody because I
Yeah,
think if you're watching this, I think Josh would be a great resource to, and he's very open. Like you can pester him at any time. So, but again, Josh, thank you so much. I know that you've got other things going on today, so I'm going to let you go. But let me know if you ever need me.
same here. Come down and see me sometime. We got some huge bass down here in the lake.
All right, I'm in.